There we go.
Thank you. We got it. Um, so, hello. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. And I have a story for you to tell with a very catchy title Only Hackers Will Survive. And I will tell you a bit why later on. But before we begin, a little disclaimer. In terms of accessibility and for visually disabled people who might listen to us online, I would like to introduce myself as a person, female, almost 30. And technology-wise, this technology, of course, were prepared only with open source software. I hope it's clear for the crowd here, but some people might also listen to us later on online. So I really would like to also point it out. And in terms of ecology, all the file will prepare in a way to be the most effective as possible. So those are the three aspects that I will also build my story today on. And the whole talk will last 30 minutes. Afterward, we will have a space for Q&A. So if any kind of thought will pump up, just raise the hand afterwards, and there is a space for discussion. And also there will be like a short, very quick one announcement, but this one a bit off the record. And so yeah, welcome. My name is Joanna, and I'm not developer. I'm more like a researcher, and I also advocate for open sources. I work with educational organizations, with cultural organizations, help them to transform themselves on this more ethical and sustainable path, and also help them to implement open source solutions in their organizations. So this is what I'm doing. I'm promoting and promoting what you are doing here. So when I'm talking about accessibility, for me, it's a kind of a respect and also openness for diverse and resilient communities. And as a whole, if we look as a communities, as a social, as a society, as a whole system, and technology and ecology as well, we all have to live in a one big closed ecosystem, which is our planet Earth. And there are some issues emerged from that, because on this intersection of those relations between those systems, sometimes some of them are more extractive, sometimes there is like a lack of harmony between, because at the bottom of that we have a limited access to the resources, mostly water, because this is the resource that allows us all to live, all to survive. And especially in the context of environmental aspect of technology, it's been talking a lot about carbon footprint, energy consumption, but also I really would like to pay your attention to the footprint of water itself, because when it comes to I will tell you the story from the perspective of a smartphone. Year 2007, all of us know this date. It's like first iPhone comes out, and it totally changed the way how we what was our relationship with the technology, how we reach information, how we produce data, how the data comes to us, and how it forms our way of thinking and perceiving the reality. What is also important in terms of the water, I don't know if you were aware, but to produce one single piece of a smartphone, it is and it's in the whole life cycle of it, it generates water footprint in amount amount of like 14 square meters. So I will do a small experience for you right now, and I will make 13 steps just to realize you how much water is that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I will not even make it to able to cross it. It's why I'm doing it, just to drive your imagination and just to realizing you that everything that you own and this technological progress also harming those ecological and environmental systems. So when we're talking about everyone, is it working? Does it work? Yeah, thanks. Excellent. And so when we are talking about everyone today is on the smartphone, it's clear. But I really would like to pay attention to like small things that building our relationship with this piece of hardware. And I will pay your attention to notifications, and especially the use of a red color. Red color, in terms of like a psychology, it's kind of like a signal for our brain that something wrong is happening, that we immediately have to pay attention to it. It also, at some point, if we are overexposed to the red color, it can also affect our blood pulse, and it can make us even at some point anxious. Those are the hidden aspects of the psychology of the colors, and this is the front side. But when it comes to the very early stage of like making this decision, that in a way of like how we design our interfaces, how we create a technology that create us and shapes our behaviors. I want to also pay your attention to the rare earth mineral. It's called europium. I don't know if you heard about it. This is really interesting aspect, because this only one particular rare earth mineral is responsible for illuminating bright colors on our screen. And currently it's really hard to recycle those metals. So it is like 1% of efficiency when it comes to recycling and repurposing this metal. So as you can see, small decisions, small like aspects like choosing the right color, which affecting us personally on a level of psychology, also contributes to the aspect of the way how the natural resources are being extracted. And also because the technological development, which I'm a huge fan of, so I'm not standing against it, I'm just trying to give you like a broader context of that, is that we are not because our economy is, of course, is linear and it's a huge problem, driven by consumerism, and so we are not looking for solution. There is lack of, unfortunately, in a massive scale, like of a solutions, how to repurpose, how to reuse it, how to rethink even the way we are creating our world today. So we are constantly looking and constantly extracting metals and minerals, even though from the very bottom of our oceans. So that's also the kind of like a alarm for our society, that maybe it's a way to better to rethink how we create stuff and what is our relationship with them, rather than continue and keep maintaining same system. And those are the consequences of this like linear approach, that we are just sourcing, don't think about like putting our resources back in circulation. Then everything is driven by sale and trends, but most importantly, when it comes to the technology, what is the end of the life cycle of our hardware? What is the end of the life cycle of our devices? So, and I will pay a bit more attention here, because I will share with you a few footages and outcomes from from my recent research I done in India in electronic waste dumpsters, mostly thankfully to the support for KD community from India. And what I found there was really like, it broke me totally, but also gave me a lot of hope, because I realized there are people like you who are trying to find a solution for those problems. And I think we all need to at some point be aware of that. And those pictures are not easy, so sorry for them. But everyone deserves to know the truth, right? So basically, the end of the life cycle of our smartphones, like there is a very interesting like a research hub close to the UN. Every year they launch a new report about electronic waste, and this problem only is skyrocketing, right? So it's not that we are having enough a solution to overcome and to trying to solve this issue. And what is really personally bothering me the most, that we as a society already have a huge problem with a plastic, and we don't know how to solve it. Like the little plastic particles can be found almost everywhere, even in the womb of a pregnant woman. And now we have like another stream of electronic waste which is coming, and which is even way more complicated when it comes to processing it. And we still don't know yet how to solve this problem. And as you can see, a lot of smartphones, like a lot of, for me, it is a kind of a crime against the humanity, because, they are like global laws which are bound to transfer this type of a waste to the global south countries, even though those like developed countries like US, mostly US and Europe, still shipping this waste to the places where people don't have enough capability to process it, don't have a technology. So most of the work they are doing is done by hand. And so we can imagine it's highly hazardous, it's highly dangerous. And also what is really terrifying, that there is of course a lot of child labor as well. And it's normal. Here you can see only the screens from the smartphones are being sold per kilo, but there are like a tons of those every day. Because it's interesting, because India became like the biggest hub of electronic waste in the whole Asia, mostly because at some point China banned delivering waste from other European and US and Australia and other countries. So eventually this waste came to India, even though India has also signed up some agreements with other countries. But people who are shipping this waste find a way, find the loop, and they are transporting it first to the Bhutan, then to the Bhutan and Nepal, and then this waste goes directly to the India. So this market is in the 90% illegal, informal, and I think all of us, everyone who purchase any type of new hardware, should be aware that the whole cycle looks like that our phones and our laptops do not exist without people in Democratic Republic of Congo who are mining cobalt, do not exist without europium, which I showed you before, and other rare earth minerals elements. And this problem is not only about smartphone, but in general about the whole technology. Here you can see I found the spot where they were like dismelting the servers from the Bangalore. So this is how it ends up. Unfortunately, if we do not pay much attention to it, if we do not ask questions, where really our old computers and hardwares and its life cycle. I also, when I went there, I was also really inspired before by the research done by Polish researchers. They've analyzed the picture from the there was an artist who made like who take footages of little crabs who are find a way to form the home in a kind of a waste. So I was also looking for a way how this problem affect the animals, and it turns out that a lot of dogs, of course, on those places, and other animals who are like biting or all the waste, who are drinking water from like a contaminated sources. So it's because all the waste, when it's landfilled, all the toxic elements goes directly to the groundwater and also to the soil. Of course, just like I said, child labor quite common, and that's why it's happening, because the cost of the labor is extremely low. So those companies still can do it because they can afford it, because like processing electronic waste, just like I said before, is extremely complicated. Also, the in some places there are machines which are require a lot of energy because the process is not quite energy efficient. So the amount of like the metals they can extract from it actually cost of the energy overcome the final savings. So as you can see, this is how it looks like. This is how most of the electronics ends up. According to the Electronic Waste Monitor, 65% of global electronic waste ends up like that, unfortunately. So yeah, but there were also kind of like little sparkling of a hope over there, because I also been talking with like local entrepreneurs there, and they are extremely like they see also opportunity in that. And what they are doing here, they are but their technology is not it's not safe, and it's not like, you know, here in Europe we have like a standards that you cannot overcome, but there nothing like that exists. So what they are doing, they are grinding the electronic waste, then they are melting it, and then they are extracting gold out of it. So and also the one guy over there, he also has a jewelry shop. So as you can see, those resources came into the circulation. But that was the dark side of my presentation. Sorry for that. I also I split it into half, and now I promise I bring some hope. So don't worry. Now it happened, right? I mean, we cannot do anything about it. But I think what's next is all up to us, and that's why we are here. And I also, when I came back, I was really keen to find the source of the issue, really like a really deeply rooted source of this problem. And I came into the contact with Joseph. He was really supportive for me and gave me like a lot of insight of what's happening here, what you are doing in KDE, because I feel and I believe that open source is an ultimate solution for like overcoming the planned obsolescence of the hardware. Then I came into, sorry for this, like there's a lot of text on the slide, but I can share it with you later. But I wanted to point out that especially in the context of France, they are really, there is a legislation law regarding environmental aspects of IT, and especially hardware. And though they point out what are the main reasons why people like dropping their hardware, why people are dropping their smartphones. And I just realized this is mostly because this is mostly the human, really deeply attached human problem. People do not know how to use it, the hardware properly, don't understand it, don't know how to manage their data properly, how to keep it clean, how to keep it structured. So they eventually could the life cycle of their hardware could be a bit longer. So then I realized this is all about like a mindset, right? That for years our economy, the way of living, being highly linear, and also there is this approach for sustainability that we have to like rethink, redefine how we operate. That we have to repurpose things and put them in a constant circulation. This is the circular economy. But then I jumped into the concept of like a regenerative approach. This is something even more, because at some point, if we open our minds for being more regenerative, it means that we as a community, as a society, have enough, and we are able to also uplift and help the others, support our community. And all this aspect is very also gets a lot of inspiration from permacomputing, which is the approach for like creating technology in a way that it listen to the community, listen to the natural ecosystem. It's not extractive, but rather collaborative. So I point out a few like a main aspect of regenerative approach for technology and for permacomputing. And it's, of course, just like I said before, it's all community based. And what's happening here at KDE, it's all already community based. So I think we are on a good path, and I really highly appreciate that what's happening here, what are the projects you are working on, and I also promote it among my friends and promote in the organizations, because your work, what we are doing here, deserves even more and more recognition. And those are the pictures from KDE India community gathering. And again, I'm extremely grateful for meeting those people, because they also helped me to conduct the field research on electronic waste dumpsters. And also especially in the context of hacking culture, there is a space for experimentation. There is a space for making mistakes, and no one is blaming for them, because they are a space for like making ourselves and making our community stronger and resilient. So this is also extremely important. And also, of course, is a thing for open source in general, open knowledge sharing, but it's not that common. It's not that common everywhere. So I again want to say, and I really highly appreciate that's what's happening here. And there is also a really interesting project recently, I think at the end of May, correct me if I'm wrong, Opt Green. It's also, I don't know if all of you have heard about it, is a part of a KDE Echo project that stands for open knowledge sharing, for the workshop, for the meetings with the people who really needs like this kind of a solution. Also today on the way here, we had a discussion with Paul, he's here. He just went, that we had discussion about like promoting knowledge and solution at schools, because it turns out that a lot of schools don't have the access to the newest resources, and it turns out that they also require a lot of like a knowledge, open knowledge exchange, in a way to being more green and more progressive. And what is also important when it comes to like this regenerative approach is a care for life and extending life cycle. And here comes to play Ocular, which is, again, I don't want to be like sounds like you're fun, like a psycho fan, but I really appreciate what you are doing. And this Ocular is a proof that it's doable, right? That the software can be done in a way that it do not contribute to the planned obsolescence of the hardware. And I just pointed out, just to let you know that again, I highly appreciate what's happening here, and this project is amazing. And it's also, I don't know the whole background of like getting through the process of this certification, but it's really something, and it's also like a contributing in a way to being more regenerative. And also, this is a picture from KDE India gathering. Also, there we had like a lot of really fruitful discussion about keeping things simple. That was really interesting because there is like a growing trend of like this feature phones where people are especially abandoning like this overstimulated work of a lot of applications, lot of like this red notification which are grabbing our attention, and trying to keep it as simple as possible. And here is a very interesting diagram. It's like a gathering of trends, what's happening when it comes to like permacomputing, and those are the links for the projects which you can dive deeper afterward just to stay inspired. But as you can see, there is a where is it? No, the thing is, I wanted to point up 128 kilobyte club, 1 kilobyte club over there on the right. Right. So there is also this trend, and there's like a craving for less. That this, if you wanna have an access to it, is a diagram.website, and it's like a whole directory with really interesting projects and a very progressive one. And here you can also find more information about the permacomputing and the people who are involved in this movement, and maybe also get a bit inspired by this approach. And and also at the heart of this is this new approach for like economy, which is like the growth economy, which is in this case is extremely important to reach the stage when we know that we have enough. We know that we don't have to grow anymore. We know that what we already achieve is actually fulfilling our needs and our desires. And then there is like this changing point when we are just maintain. We do not produce more. We just make it sure that our community, our projects, our goods are just being maintained in a way to sustain our community. And also also again this is also the picture from KD gathering in India. So yeah, I think it is important to just like I point at the beginning, that diverse and community is the resilient one that allowed us to act free, right? That we do not hurt anyone, that we are just in here together, but we have a trust and we have a respect for each other. And reuse, right? Because yeah, woo, again, KD, woo. Because the first thing when it comes to sustainability, circularity, or regenerative approach is first of all, refuse, saying that we don't need anymore, that's enough, and reuse, give especially our hardware second chance, right? Second chance, upcycle it and try to extend its life cycle as long as possible. And but also what is important is to repurpose, because I've told you I have the necklace on me made of PC board, because right now we have so many of this waste that is also important to rethink how we can reuse it. I've seen some projects in Africa where people been building walls for their homes from old keyboards, and and also I also work with kids, and we are trying to make some little stuff and like sculptures, also again made from the waste, just to realize that this is a really valuable resource that we can repurpose, reuse it, and try to look for the alternative solution, and try to extend its life cycle as long as possible, to the moment where we will be able to recycle it in a very effective and efficient way. There was someone from New Zealand, as good I remember. Hello. Also to bring more hope when it comes to the like bio-based technology, bio-based solution for recycling. There is a really strong movement right now happening when it comes to using microbes and to recycling and extracting metals from the electronic waste. So it's happening, but the thing is, this technology is on a very early stage. So before it will be commercialized and will reach the scale that will help us to solve this problem, we still at the moment right now we have to use our imagination. We have to be very creative in a way to reuse and repurpose this waste that we are is all over around here. So I'm gonna again to point out to the mindset, because it's all about our perception, all about those systems that we are interfering with, and at the end, I think the whole change begins here, and not with the technology, but with the way we perceive it, the way we work with it, what are the expectation, what are our expectation for it, and what we can do to make sure that we all together as a societal, ecological, and technological system can fit into this one circle, which is our planet Earth, which resources are limited, and we all have to keep that in mind. Yeah, those are those three systems I wanted to discuss with you, and I have once again a lot of love for you, what you are doing here, and a lot of appreciation, because from social point of view, you provide accessibility, provide like a access to the people who are not being able to buy a new piece of hardware. I've seen beautiful projects of like at schools where in the countries in the global south, which was not able to buy new hardware, but they could, and some countries send them like a 20, 50 years old computers, but they were able to use them because they repurpose it. They reinstalled the system. They fit the software that allows them to use it. So from the social point of view, it's extremely beneficial. From environmental point of view, it's extremely important because it's allows to stay software with hardware with us a bit longer. And from technological point of view, it's also uplift and inspire others to be innovate and to share openly the knowledge. And that's the aspect of a hackers and hacking mindset, because I think those are the qualities that will help us to survive on this planet, which is under threat, unfortunately. But those gatherings like here are only proving that there is a hope. And this hope is community driven by KD. And I have a short announcement. Can we maybe stop recording, because I don't want to stream it. Excellent. Welcome back, live. Alive. Oh, there's a.
He's got a mic. Did you turn the switch? It should be green.
Maybe I can.
And if it's yellow, then it's in the.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
So if there was one thing you could wish from free software developers and the KDE community to help combat e-waste, what would it be?
I think you're already doing it. And to be honest, like with all the KDE Echo projects, and like from what I know, especially from you, Joseph, that you're organizing workshop, working with teenagers, and I think would be really nice to have more of young people here, just to make sure that we will pass this knowledge, we will pass this mindset to them, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I just realized that the best what we can do is to extend as long as possible the life cycle of a hardware. That's the best what we can do, and that also, at the other hand, would contribute to slowing down the this whole trend of consumptionism.
Hello? Yeah. You had the one slide which said degrowth. More or less every company I know wants to grow. And we have we have capitalism all over the world. That's a hard sell. It's probably necessary, but
yeah, but the thing is, maybe I will switch into the slides, because that's the curve of degrowth, that we grow to the certain point, and we know where are our limitations, and then we only maintain. And I know all the companies want to grow, but I think we need to find some kind of a balance here, right? And but this trend is also growing. There are more and more like even investors who are not like requiring cashing out in a way of being like highly on growth. So it's again the thing with a mindset, right? That we require more and more and more. But the thing is that we still forget that we live in a closed cycle, in a closed ecosystem that also has its limitation, and it will take years to natural resources to restore. And I think it's not a threat for our for the planet, but it's a threat for our society and a civilization.
So, hi, yeah. Thanks for your great talk. I think a lot has to happen in the countries in the global north to prevent all this e-waste and stuff you mentioned. Are there political movements or initiatives you are aware of or that are happening right now that try to combat these things from these countries as well? I'm thinking about like the right to repair movement and stuff like that.
So I'm also a huge fan of it. We all have a right to repair, but this challenge is systematic, because at some point some of the hardware is not being designed and created in a way to be able to be repaired. But I see also a lot of like repairing cafes like popping up all over all of the world actually. And also there is this legislation coming on from European Union that the extended responsibility of a manufacturer. But it's a beautiful idea, but I'm looking forward for the execution. Also, I see the trend, especially when it comes to like purchasing hardware in the companies, that they are looking for refurbished hardware. So it is like that they are not. It's not their choice to look for first choice of option to look for the new equipment. So they're trying also to look for something on the second-hand market. And yeah, and also on this level of the customers, they are also trying to repair, upcycle. I've seen really beautiful projects of like repurposing smartphones. There are like almost 20 different ways how you can use your old smartphone as CCTV camera, as a joystick, as a controller. So it's about like a hacking culture, which are looking for those different way of using hardware, which are openly sharing the knowledge, and this attitude is extremely important. And also they are like maker like hubs and workshops where people like community based are gathering and trying to like exchange knowledge, but also tools, because it's also a matter of tools, but not all of people have an access to them. So there's a hope. But it requires more recognition.
To complement open software to push open hardware that complements longevity of open software, how can we push such open hardware without creating new hardware?
That's a good question. $1 million question. I think creating more of an open hardware and promoting it, that's the only, because also this is a problem in general, that the hardware, even though my phone will die after a few years, I'm not able to upcycle it and put a new software on it. So it's not compatible. And there are a lot of projects, open hardware projects, but they are again deserve more recognition. And I think from the perspective of a person who is trying to create this bridge between tech savvy communities and people who are really willing to look for alternative solution, I think the language it's too complicated for them, first of all, and secondly, also the visual language is not accessible for them enough to understand and to be able to make this decision that I really want to go for the open hardware. They want to go, but from what I heard from a lot of people, that they have a problem with Linux. There are some issues, so they don't know how to solve them, and I think more care for this like user experience side, for education, for like a support would be very also beneficial, and that would also uplift this aspect of recognition, which is required. I had to go really down to the basements of some hacker spaces to find out about the projects, but I'm really like driven by heart to do it, but not many people are willing to go in such a places. And I know, because I've been at also the Chaos Computer Club, but there are a lot of excellent, beautiful projects already there, but they need more recognition for that.
Thank you. So one of the problems in the hardware I hear about is that some electronics are made so that they're designed to break just after some time, like just after the warranty expires. And even if you have the right to repair, you still you need to still buy new parts, right? Which of course is still a kind of waste. So what do you think people can do about this matter?
Yeah, so this is the planned hardware obsolescence, which is like creating a hardware in a way to it will end its life cycle after a certain time. And I think it also require educating people at the very early stage who are making decisions how this hardware is being created and how this hardware is being designed. And there is this trend of a modular approach where you can just replace some models because that's the easiest way to do it. But it's again, it's on the growth, and more and more people and more gatherings like that, I hope will solve those problems too. Can we go offline?